So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our second webinar of this year. And this one is specifically on building a high performance safety culture. To start with today, we are going to put everybody on mute. And if we can ask everyone to stay on mute, more so because we are recording the session too, so that we can distribute it later on. So to start the agenda today, I will take everyone through an overview of Dempster and our enterprise protection platform. And then I will hand over to Kath Cross, who is one of our business solutions specialists, to show you how Damstra Safety enables and enhances your safety culture. We also have a special guest with us today, and I have the pleasure of introducing Alistair Schuback from A-Frame Safety. Alistair will talk with us about building a high-performance safety culture through mindful safety. This is a mindful safety program that we have available to our Dempster customers on our learning platform, which contributes to a high-performance safety culture. So let's get started. Dempster is a global, proven and focused organisation. Global in that we are across 14 industries, including mining, construction, energy, utilities, food and beverage, and also healthcare, who are using our solutions daily for the protection of their organisations. We're also proven with over 630 customers worldwide, 570,000 licensed users. The application provides 120,000 alerts and notifications per month. We also do over 160,000 drug and alcohol tests. And as this webinar is also focused on Dempster, we felt it was also important to note that we have over 1 million incidents recorded within the Damstra Safety application. We're also focused. Damstra develops solutions that protect the 4 largest business investment areas: people, places, assets, and information. As we know that these 4 areas are also the largest areas of business risk. How do you define your safety culture? And how do you measure success? And how do you maintain this safety culture? How are the key investment areas in your organisation protected to ensure you have prepared people, safe places, connected assets, and accessible information? And what are your strategies to increase and maintain that protection? And we'll talk through some of those today. This is where Damstra is helping our customers protect from unnecessary and unforeseen business risks, helping our customers create a high-performance safety culture that enables high levels of safety, and optimise your zero harm results. And it's through our enterprise protection platform. In utilising the Damstra Hub, it is one place for our customers to access solutions that do protect them from unnecessary and unforeseen business risk. Damstra's workforce management, learning management and connected worker solutions combine to ensure prepared people in creating workplaces that are safe, access control, digital forms and safety solutions are utilised. Assets also need to be connected through integrated asset management, enabling asset mobilisation and offerings in RFID and IoT. And lastly, accessible information. Utilising reporting BI tools and predictive analytics are critical to ensuring our customers making the right decisions with the right information. And this is all available to you in one application. The webinar today is showcasing how Damstra Safety helps protect your world and how it plays a critical part in measuring and maintaining your safety culture. Let me now hand you over to Kath Cross, who will demonstrate how we put safety in the hands of your people, how our solution provides timely notifications to enable actions, how we create actionable learnings, and lastly, insightful analytics which help in making timely decisions. Kath, over to you.
Thanks, Catherine, and welcome everybody to this Damstra Safety webinar. It's my pleasure to co-present this today alongside Catherine Vosper and Alistair Schuback from A-Frames. The purpose of this part of the webinar is to pose this question to you. How can your organisation build a better safety culture using the modules of Damstra Safety? I'd like to show you some of the modules of Dempster Safety that will guide your company in making informed safety decisions, and where you can store with confidence your compliance records, evidence your actions in terms of health and safety obligations, manage risk effectively across your sites, and obtain actionable insights that will guide your decision-making processes. By the end of this webinar, I would like you to take away 4 things that you could do today using the Dempster Safety module to improve safety across your organisation. So we're going to start on the Enterprise Protection platform because Dempster Safety is one of the many modules available here, sitting alongside the likes of workforce management, digital forms, Dempster learning, asset control, just to name a few. So we're going to enter in via health and safety and launch Dempster Safety. And the platform presents with a menu to the left-hand side of the screen, which in this instance has all the features turned on for us to view. So we've got dashboards at the moment open, where you can manage and monitor all of your actions within the repository. Your governance module, which has got the likes of your health and safety planner, reports, the risk module. We're going to spend a bit of time today in the events register, your hazard register, for example, the compliance module. So you've got the likes of evidencing the meetings taking place across your organisation, got your observations, documents, assets module, and finally your people module with your workers, your contracted workers, any third-party visitors who may have been involved in an incident. So all holding records to be accessed by those with certain permissions at site levels. So let's start with takeaway point number 1 today, and that is putting safety in the hands of your workers and contracted workers across your sites. That is the ability to inform you, to report, to let you know in real time what is happening across your organisation in the safety space. The Demstra app will allow your workers and contracted workers to report on events anywhere at any time, even offline, capturing photographic evidence, the geolocations with a push of a button. Fast and effective reporting in real time. This is the Demstra Health and Safety portal that can be accessed by anyone in your organisation to upload an event, report upon an observation, perhaps a hazard on site. So let's say there's been an incident at the Christchurch warehouse workshop. Let's say Maria has been injured whilst working on the lathe in the workshop. When Maria was adjusting her safety glasses, which weren't fitted properly, some more dust went into her eye. So we're going to click on Report Injury. So we'll fill out the form as we are Maria in this instance, so we can just start typing for her to find her name in the worker register. It immediately pulls through her name into the involved field, but if it was somebody else that she was reporting on, she'd simply fill in that person's name. It brings through Maria's accountable site where she works and the department that she works within. However, Maria then gets to pop in the location of the event, so more specific detail around where in the engineering department this took place. The event date can be pulled through, the event time, And the subject is a drop-down box of configurable subject types. So let's scroll down, and it was a workshop incident. The next three boxes here are where Maria can fill in what happened. So she could put in the likes of the fact that she was working on the lathe. It was a rather hot day and the ventilation wasn't working as well as it could have been. The perspiration that she had on her face meant that her goggles or her safety glasses were slipping. So when she went to adjust them, some wood chip went in her eye. Who else was involved? So it could have been that somebody working nearby witnessed that. So Bob might have been working on the next machine over and he saw that she'd had an accident. What initial actions, corrections were taken? So it could be that Maria fills this out to say that she stopped all work, turned off the machine and immediately went to first aid to flush out her eye. Further down, Maria could attach a photo by clicking into the space and uploading or dragging and dropping in a file. And then Maria can actually add her injury details around the injury sustained by clicking through the body part, the body area, and then adding the injury to the injury list below, all of which are configurable drop-down lists. So that's all done. Be able to click save and submit that to the Damstra Safety system. It's simple to use, very easy to follow, quick to fill in and captures the initial detail at the time of the event. Very similar to the way in which the app works as well. So where does this go and what happens next? We'll head back into Damstra Safety. And that leads me to point number 2, which is timely notifications to those who need to know to then enable actions. So we'll head back into the events register. Taking its time, there we go. Yeah. And we can see where that has ended up. Okay, so just take away the filter 0 for now, but we can see the subject, the date, the event type, the category, the person who reported, and where this took place. So several things are happening at this time. Firstly, this report has submitted immediately into this particular register. And right now, Maria's supervisor, Bill, has just received an email notification informing him of the event and its details. Due to the fact that this is an eye injury, which is a category of particular concern to the organisation, the members of Maria's site health and safety team have also been informed instantly. These notifications can be configured within the settings of the system based on set triggers such as the site where it took place, perhaps the worker type, the event subject, the injury type, and eventually notifications can flow from the likes of event completion, investigation completion, and corrective actions sign-off. All of these notifications ensuring that those that need to know about events or observations taking place at certain sites around the organisation are informed in a timely manner to then instigate actions. So actions, creating actions, informative and guiding, but how can Dempster Safety support these actions and mitigate further risk to Maria and her colleagues working within the warehouse workshop? So let's take the place of Maria's health and safety leader and take a look at the event register, because we can now act on the email that we've just received. So we'll open up this particular record. We'll go into edit mode, which leads us to takeaway point number 3, looking for actionable learnings. So the saying goes, if we don't know about it, there's nothing we can learn from it. But we've solved that by putting safety in the hands of your people, empowering them to report freely, anywhere, anytime. But it's now up to Maria's health and safety team to understand what happened. The Dempster Safety Event Investigation process allows for a thorough investigation, be it standard or formal. The standard investigation is where we're going to go and have a look at next. But just to understand, within the risk module, there's also the formal investigation area. A formal investigation may be chosen if this was perhaps a notifiable event or some of its outcomes were of a critical risk category. So looking at this particular record, we can see the details that have come through from what Maria has filled in. We can have a look at those boxes that she filled in, the what happened, who else was involved, initial actions taken, and then we can start to categorise this particular event. Foreign body and a severity rating of moderate. If this was indeed maybe serious, major or even catastrophic, you can imagine that these might also be triggers to certain people within the organisation. So let's head into the standard investigation and have a look at what we can achieve there. Investigation tick box not required. Sometimes that might be the instance where it might be of a minor nature, but in this instance, an investigator has been assigned with a due date inputted. So let's have a look at what an investigator can potentially do from this point on. We've got the likes of witness statements, and we can see that witness statements have been gathered by Maria's health and safety team. It looks like Colin was able to produce something of a signed document which has been attached, whereby he was able to confirm that the heat within the workshop area has been exacerbating issues and leading to some accidents lately. Also, Robert gave a verbal statement which was inputted into the system, that he was working with Maria at the time, said all processes were being adhered to, but he didn't see her shift her glasses, but he said he hadn't noticed her doing that in the past. However, he agreed that, where am I? He agreed that the glasses do shift around on the face when it gets hot. So something here for the investigator to take into the next part, which is having a look at that causal analysis. So this area here is where you can start to drill down certain classifications and groups and factors to the underlying causes of what happened on this particular day that impacted this particular incident. So it looks like there was a poor fit of PPE, poor ventilation, and perhaps the PPE wasn't checked prior to being used. If we were to add further causal analysis, we can drill down through your configurable list to choose further human factors potentially, and that on this particular day there was heat exposure. And save. So this all leads to the next section, which is the corrective actions, the all-important actions that will hopefully mitigate further risk of this happening to Maria and her colleagues in the workshop. So it looks like Fran was assigned the responsibility to look into the efficacy of the current safety glasses that are used on site. Reports are that they don't hold firm when the workers perspire. Facilities management, Glenn, he's been made responsible to look into the ventilation system at Warehouse B. Reports are that it hasn't been working that well lately. Furthermore, Catherine has been assigned the corrective action of ensuring that all supervisors are adding the topic of PPE to their safety talks, the importance of checking it, wearing it properly, respecting the items. And then the final piece of this investigation is the actual event outcome versus the potential event outcome, where we discovered that the probability was likely of this happening and the consequence in this actual event was relatively minor with a moderate risk description. However, the potential event outcome probability is still the same, but the consequence could have been awful if Maria had lost her vision, temporarily or even permanently. So that's got a risk outcome based on high. This would be linked to your risk matrix, which is set up in the settings of the system. Another area of learnings is If we scroll to the top, the related field. Further learnings can be realised in the related tab, where you can relate this event record with other records in the Damstra Safety modules. For instance, this can be related to a risk whereby if PPE is not worn or worn correctly, it can lead to personal injury, which we can see right here. It's also been linked intrinsically to the PPE item sitting within the assets module, which might prompt a review of the use of that particular item and the supply of that item. As you can see, if I click Add, this record could be related to many different types of records throughout the system, perhaps to another ongoing investigation with very similar incident details. So this is where you can start to build a bit of a story, and where your system can start to tell you the bigger picture or show you the bigger picture of what's happening across your organisation. It might be that you can pull a report from the reporting module that can tell you in the last period how many events were linked to known risks, where the controls within that risk may be failing. If we click through to the linked risk, we can go look at the control measures and the control plan that's currently in place and review those controls, and perhaps even discover that some of them aren't actually even protecting our people just yet. So finally, this leads us to take away point number 4, insightful analytics. So within Damstra Safety, you actually have access to the standard report suite in the governance module, which has got over 160 different reports available, all module specific, where you can simply enter in your parameters of date or person type or event type or induction type, whatever it might be, to pull the types of reports that you need to see. However, within the business intelligence tool, which is in the dashboarding area, this is where you can actually create your own customizable, drillable reports based on what you need to see and when. This particular one here is a safety risk profile at a particular site in the organisation, where risk owners can review the status of risks, looking at the raw risk and the the residual risk and status of controls. You can see off to the far right hand side, if we just come across the last review date and the next review date. So if I was to be assessing this particular confined space, I would be very concerned about the status of controls that weren't even started. So really a visually impactful and easy to digest report. What's more, we can go into the dashboards area, and I might show you a couple of dashboards. So this is an example of a dashboard whereby we can have a look at the events by type across our different sites. I could be filtering to the different site levels, different date, and as you can see, if I was to look at Christchurch once again and the incidents at that site, I can even drill through to a report showing me each of those incidents that have happened in the period that I might have popped into the filters. A board report. This has got an example of data pulling through from not only the events module, but also corrective actions and training. But going back into Damstra Safety and into the dashboarding area, we can actually see that there's a few quite good reports sitting in this area as well that are indicators, where we can have a look at some trend analysis, the likes of the lead and lag indicators. And again, easy for me to adjust my parameters as to the month I might be looking at, and where I can have a look across the likes of the treatment required and the injuries and illnesses taking place, the types of injuries, incidents versus near misses with the notifiable as a subset, and then across our people types. So actionable insights leading to informed decisions where good data is telling you the story of your organisation's status in terms of risk management, compliance, and safety observations. All held securely on your enterprise protection platform, a place where you can protect your world and ensure an improved safety culture across your organisation, ensuring that you do have prepared people, that you have got safe workplaces, connected assets, and accessible information. So just to recap on a couple of takeaways from this webinar. Number one, put safety in the hands of your people. Encourage and empower them. Then your people can let you know what's happening across your sites, and hopefully you can even create that feedback loop that could be a regular post on your intranet or a safety poster that lets them know this is what you told us and this is what we have done. Number two, timely notifications to enable actions. So alerting those who need to know what's happening across the sites in your organisation and prompting action. Number three was creating learnings. So ensuring and informing ongoing improvement to your processes and your safety outcomes. Number four was the insightful analytics, where you need them and when you need them. So that concludes this part of the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please do get in touch with us if you'd like to learn anything more about this particular module. And back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Cass. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to Alistair Schuback, our CEO at A-Frame Safety. I'll let Alistair introduce himself and A-Frames, but Alistair's here to share some of the experiences that he's had and talk through the Mindful Safety program that we have available to our Damstra customers on our learning platform. Over to you, Alistair.
All right, thanks, Catherine, and thanks, Catherine, as well for that last little session. There's some interesting info, some great data there. But look, what I thought I'd do today is just I guess give you a background of where I've come from, why the sort of thinking behind the Mindful Safety program, and even give you a couple of takeaways that you might be able to use straight away. As Catherine's already mentioned, you know, I'm the CEO of A-Frame Safety and the founder of the Mindful Safety program, which really what I was trying to do is to create a program that in a really simple and practical way captures or gives you a pathway to creating a safety culture that's not only you know, meeting the targets, but performing at a really high level, you know. And the way we've done that is to start looking at, I guess, mindset and safety mindset in particular, with the goal of making sure that people have a make really good decisions, particularly around risk, and so ultimately optimal risk-based decision making. I mean, a bit about myself. I've been in the game a while, about 20 years. I've trained personally 18,000 people myself in risk and you know, cultural change, etc. I've coached hundreds of leaders. I've implemented safety systems, done all the ICAMs and that. And what I sort of found is, you know, some companies are really cutting through, but there's a lot of my companies and clients that I was involved with that just sort of plateaued out, and they weren't really cutting through and getting to that next level of you know, really excellent safety performance. And or another way of looking at it, when we start to think about zero harm, we often think about, you know, what is zero harm? It's this ultimate goal, but maybe a good way of looking at it is just to see what our current team, what level they can reach, you know, what level of performance, and making sure that's a high performance and keeping that going. So I've sort of always been involved or interested in processes deliver an outcome. So what the Mindful Safety program is trying to get a process of developing a safety culture which performs at a high level for longer. And look, I guess, and I'll talk more about the results, but it's been really heartening. I guess some of the problems that I typically get called into is usually I go to a site and, you know, so we've got a high incident rate and this is wrong. And, you know, things like procedural breaches, you know, poor decision making, you know, little incidents of inattention, people having a slip or a lapse, and, you know, they don't have to do a lot wrong in order to have a really bad outcome and a really severe incident. Often the time we talk about human factors and behaviours, but it's really about how can we get on top of those behaviours to make sure that people make the right choices at the right time. And that's from the safety angle. But if we think about the cultural stuff, which I get involved as well, is, we're coming with negative attitudes, low engagement, people don't want to be there, there's high turnover, absenteeism, which all sounds fairly negative, but it's definitely not a team performing at a high level. So if you really want to get these results, you sort of got to get the people not only trained and how to do their job, but also have the systems to do it, but, getting them to want to do it. And what I really started to focus on is making sure that the right person or the right version of the person turns up. So many of these incidents happen because they just have a B grade moment, and it's not usually, from what I've seen with some of the severe sort of incidents, it's good people trying to do more work or actually trying to get more done, and they just push through a little bit too hard, and they just make this small decision which has a massive ramifications in some areas. And I've been involved with fatalities, I've been involved with some really serious injuries where people didn't do a lot wrong. So you definitely have to get to that base level to find out, or at least help people so they make really good decisions. And by starting to think about, what influences how people turn up, or, someone's mindset. And we started looking at this, and look, there were hundreds of things, but we started to form a very clear picture. And this is something you can take away today, is what actually constitutes someone's mindset, what really affects it. And we've sort of boiled it down to 4 areas. There could have been a lot more, but these are the ones that really cut through in our experiences. I guess is whether somebody's aware or mindful awareness, being actually present on the job, not too far in the future, in the past, and actually being here and being on the job and being present for what's actually going on, being able to control their mind and concentrate so it doesn't drift. The other part, I guess, is safety attitude or care factor, whether they really believe that safety is important to them. And what I usually find there is whether they really value it. And it's pretty sad, but some people don't really value themselves or their own asset, or their financial asset that creates all their money and provides for their family. The other part I find is really interesting is emotions. And the part that we get into is emotional regulation, having the ability to, turn that passion or even that anger or that frustration into something useful. And the other part is, which a lot of people don't reflect on, but it's terribly important, is what I call safety self-efficacy, or the ability for people to speak up when they need to speak up, and and actually speak up to their peers, speak upwards, sideways and downwards to say, no, that's not on. We're not going to push through for that extra productivity result. We've got to pull back here and make sure that the risk is managed correctly. And they're tough. Often they talk about critical conversations, but what really, when someone has a strong sense of self, or they really have enough personal belief in themselves, or the aspect that they're trying to, I guess, argue for, whether they're going to actually have that conversation and kick through. And by focusing on those 4 areas, we've had some, some really good results. Quite surprising initially for myself, but now it's been sort of being reproduced. We've had TRIFR rates on average go down about 50% in about a year. We've had some sites that have had an 80% reduction, TRIFR of like 24 down to 4, and sustainable, and it stays there, because once people have the right mindset and they have a system of maintaining it, we really start to get some cut through. And with that comes all the, the productivity aspects as well. Once people start looking after themselves, they start looking after the business. So significant productivity improvements, anything up to 50%. And I'm throwing these numbers around, and they're big numbers, but it was really what I'm finding by looking down this avenue, and we're learning all the time, is that if you really focus on how people make decisions and give them like the growth mindset and the ability to be enabled to make good decisions, then they do, and it really starts paying off for the business. So look, how have we done that? And what actually is the Mindful Safety Program? It's a digital offering that is centred around a couple of things, really trying to get those 4 attributes right, which is your mindful awareness, your safety attitude, your emotional regulation, and safety self-efficacy. And focusing on that is giving people the information and also the pathway to understand that. So there's a lot of digital content. Me personally speaking on videos, anything up to 3 hours, not all at once. It's like about 60 videos in about 9 modules that make sense to different levels of your business as well, and different. Some people might need to know all the bells and whistles, but some people are right across it to the point that some of your leaders become coaches in this sort of stuff. And one I think is probably the really exciting part, which is the second part, I guess, is that we've got a metric that actually allows us to measure this. I've been kind of looking for this utopian way of kind of measuring whether people are going to make good decisions, because so often you're sitting in an investigation and you hear about, oh, well, he just didn't make the right decision, and we start looking at administration controls and things like that. But look, what we started to do is think about what is influencing this mindset, and by actually looking at these 4 areas and thinking about, well, how can we measure this? Developed a very simple, what we call a safety mindset metric, which is kind of, well, I've called it a safety selfie, where you just take a snapshot and just see what turns up on the day. And it sounds quite unusual, but I think we do this for things like, as we mentioned earlier, like drug and alcohol testing, etc., where we're actually testing the condition of the person. Well, what about the condition of the mind? And, whether somebody's actually turning up with their A game. And what it can trigger is not only individual personal awareness, it actually can create some data about trends within your business. You can have massive changes within a business, like a restructure, for example, that will affect the mindset. This gives you some sort of idea on how much of an impact that's going to have. And when you start getting some more data in your business, and you can link this directly to things like TRIFR and that sort of stuff, it becomes very powerful. Like, we've got some, we've been in lead metrics around like hazard reporting or the number of task observations or audited findings, and they're all like these lead indicators. But what I'm really excited about is, I think if we get this right, it could be the preeminent lead indicator that ties in all these other things. And it's so simple, and we're trying to get it into like a 5-minute survey per se, that people can actually survey themselves and have a bit of a selfie, and then, if need be, get almost bespoke content given to them to say, look, this is an area you need to work on, and here you go. Could be part of an onboarding process coming in through your induction process. It could be part of the sign-on. You arrive at the gate, you do your drug and alcohol, and then you have a look at this and do your mindset. And if everything's good, off you go. Or if you need some help, someone can come and help you. But it definitely gives you the data, and that data can project up to all sorts of areas of your business. And what I like is it's very close to what I see as a really high occurrence of these causal factors around people's decision making, and it's actually accurate. It's not removed, it's really right in there, and it's very close to what I think the root cause is. So look, that's kind of what it's about, I guess. And look, I hope that sort of helps, but we're looking at not only measuring it and finding the problem, but solving the problem. And as I've sort of said, we're getting some really great cut through on this, and I think it's simple, it's practical, it's accessible, and it sort of works. So look, I guess a couple of takeaways, and I'm going to actually put a bit of the content on of me talking to you. I hope you get a bit out of it, but it's actually from the Mindful Awareness program. And mindfulness is around a lot, but I think we need to put it in a way that people can understand. And not everyone's got a lot of time in their day to do this, but if we can actually understand how the mind works, or even how it likes to function, we can start to understand why it behaves the way it does, because the mind does drive the body, and if the body gets injured, the mind was definitely part of that. So I'm going to pop something on here in a minute. But look, I hope you get something out of this, but even some takeaways. We are really getting some serious cut through by focusing on mindset and focusing on what actually the version of the person that turns up, and then looking at those factors that actually affect that. And then if we get a holistic approach, it's going to be part of the causal factor conversation when you're having these incident investigations and learnings. And look, I'm really optimistic. Actually, I'm pretty excited, and I really believe that over the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to see this area mature. I'm really actually happy to be part of Demstra. They're really sort of, pushing the envelope on this sort of stuff, and showing some real innovation in the metrics and data side. And I think once we get some of this technology working for us, we're going to see some things come through, and hopefully see a lot less people injured needlessly. So look, what I'm going to do is pop this on. I'm not terribly tech savvy, but I'll pop this on and hopefully show you a little bit of what the program looks like. It's about a 4-minute clip. And wait up, I'm just going to stop that there because I think I just missed, as I was meant to, excuse us guys, include the audio, even though I'd rehearsed that. Here we go. So look, I hope you enjoy it, and after this we'll cross back over to Catherine and go from there. So hopefully you can hear this.
I'm going to start talking about how your mind works. So what I want you to do, if you can, we'll just do an exercise in mindfulness. I want you to bring up an image of your car, and I'm not sure if you've got one, but a car or a bike in your head, and I'd like you to look at that car, and I'd like you to look at the colour of it. So we have the ability to actually look at something in your own mind. Now, I don't mind what colour it is or what it is, but this is the theory for actually being able to see something. Now, the only reason I can see this pointer is because I have something to look with and something to look at. So if I take that away, I can't see it. And if I take that away, I can't see it. Now, for all intensive purposes, you can see a car in your mind. So you must have two minds. You must have something that's looking at it and something you're looking at. Have you been, I don't know if you've ever been in two minds about something, or if, you know, if I was in my right mind, I wouldn't have said that, or I can't believe I just did that. There's two eyes, but I want you to have a bit of a concept that we actually don't have one mind. We have two minds, and they work very closely in parallel. And for example, when you're driving your car, like we talked about earlier, one drives your car while you start drifting away and thinking about something, and then you might drive your car for a little while, and then you might go and drift off and think about what I need to do a little bit later, and you come back. But rather than thinking of a mind as one thing, I'd like you to think of it as a parallel process, I guess, and one that actually takes control of your body, and then the other one that consciously takes control of your body. So what I want you to do is to start thinking about that we have a subconscious mind and a conscious mind. Now, 95% of the thoughts that we actually have are subconscious. They are just happening while we're not aware of them. So we have this subconscious mind that is doing things 95% of the time, and it's very handy because you know, it blinks all the time, it breathes. I don't know how we'd go if we had to consciously breathe all the time. It'd be a very long day. It'd be not real good if you had a poor memory, but at the end of the day, this machine or this part of your mind which supports you is going all the time. If we think about the conscious mind, when you fall asleep, you go to sleep, but does everything keep going? Well, usually you're kicking the doona, or you're having a dream, or snoring, or doing whatever you do, and then when you wake up in the morning, you arrive again, so you become conscious again. So all the time we have this subconscious mind which is driving our behaviour, driving our body, driving our car while we check out and do other things. But it's a very handy thing. But I want to make this point out, is some of the behaviours that we actually do, or the way our body moves, is not controlled by us, is actually controlled by our subconscious mind. And it's referencing something that we've already learnt, or something that we're going to be doing in the future. Now, this is a great book, I think. Daniel Kahneman, it's a long book, it's pretty thick, and I'd probably prefer to get him on YouTube, but he wrote a book, it's about 3 or 4 years ago. He's also a Nobel Prize winner, but he called it Thinking Fast and Slow, where he started to talk about the two different types of thinking styles, or the two different types of minds. And he called it, for one of a lack of imagination, System 1 and System 2. So now, I guess I'd ask you a question. I don't know if you've ever said something that later on when you thought about it, you regretted saying. You might have said something, put your foot in it, etc. But I'll guarantee you when you said it, you were fast operating, you didn't double check, you probably just said it from habit, and you made an assumption, you were confident in it. So when people say, oh, you know, I have to hold my tongue, who's got your tongue and who's actually holding your tongue? So you've got this someone wanting to say, and I'll guarantee it's when you're emotional and when your beliefs or your opinions are being challenged, and this other part of you that's holding onto your tongue with some discipline to consciously try and work hard to make sure that you don't say something that you didn't really want to say. So yes, the subconscious mind has the ability to talk, it has the ability to drive a car, it's got the ability to blink and breathe. So what I'm going to talk about with mindfulness is making sure that you can hold your tongue, or at least get that subconscious mind to do what it needs to do.
Okay, guys. So look, I hope you got a bit. Here I am talking about tongues and bits and pieces. But look, I'll hand it back over to Catherine. Look, and thanks very much for your time. And look, if you have any questions, obviously go through Catherine and Kimberly. We'll go from there. Thanks very much again for having us, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you, Alistair. I particularly like the safety selfie that you were talking about. So yeah, that was really good. Thank you. And sharing those insights, because I can see how that is really important and critical in building that high performance safety culture for our leaders and also our workers.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of this webinar, and we'd really like to thank you all for attending and joining us today. And thank you to the presenters for what they've shown. I hope everyone here is got some really good key takeaways and messages from the session today. Obviously, if you would like some more information around Damstra Safety and the A-Frame's Mindful Safety Program, please get in touch with us. The details are on the screen there now, and we would be more than happy to talk with you further on how we can assist your organisations in these areas. So thanks again, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars that we will hold. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.